Hello, and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina, here, coming back for another solo episode all about why we don't go after the things we actually want. Whether these are big goals in your professional life, maybe pursuing more fulfilling work, or whether they're changes that you really want to see in your personal life, whether that looks like being more honest in your relationships or taking better care of yourself. What actually gets in the way of you taking risks, making time and space for the things that matter, pursuing the goals and dreams that are really on your heart? Today, we're going to get into that so that you can understand the things that are holding you back. Because once you have that awareness, you can actually do something about it. Before we jump into this conversation, I invite you to think about what that might be for you in your life right now. And this could be big or small. It doesn't need to be some grand thing like I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and start my business. It might be, and it could be something else. It could be more subtle. So think of one area of your life, personal, professional, any realm of your life that matters, that you've been holding yourself back from pursuing something that you really want to pursue or making some kind of change that you really want to make. What is that for you? Because once you have that thing in mind, as we go through this conversation, you'll be able to see how the things I'm sharing might apply to you, what they might look like in your world, and that will help you gain even more insight and wisdom and clarity for yourself if you really take the time to go on this journey with me. So I definitely invite you to do that. And as we get into this conversation today, I'm going to be sharing some insights and lessons that I've learned from going after a big goal. I just attempted a 100-mile bike ride on May 17th. So there's all kinds of lessons and learnings that came up for me in regards to pursuing a big goal and taking on a big challenge and growing and expanding outside my comfort zone. So stay tuned if you want to hear how that race went. All right, you ready to find out why you don't go after the things you actually want? Let's dive in. Number one is because your brain is trying to convince you that it's not possible. So if you have a dream, let's say you want to take a sabbatical, you want to take a month off work or a year off of work. When you get this spark of an idea, whatever it is, big or small, the brain's going to come in and tell you all the reasons why it's a bad idea, why it's not realistic, why you're not capable, why you're probably going to fail, why it's not going to work out, all these different things. So again, for you, can you see any instance of your life if you were able to think of that area, that breakthrough that you really want? What is your brain telling you when you think about making steps towards that dream, that goal, that desire? So if your brain is telling you some kind of flavor of a limiting thought, or there's some critical voice telling you why you can't do it, it's not because your brain hates you. It's not because you are uniquely incapable or inferior. None of that is true. What is going on is that our brains are wired for survival and efficiency. So our brain is going to look for all the dangers, all the things that might threaten our survival. And that pretty much equates to anything that's outside of what's known and familiar. The brain is wired for efficiency, and it finds that efficiency through patterns, through looking for evidence, through wanting proof that you're going to be safe and everything's going to be okay. And when it comes to taking a risk or taking a step outside of your comfort zone, that inherently comes with uncertainty. And the brain is going to fight you on that. The brain is not going to want to grow and expand outside of our comfort zones simply because that takes energy. So when you know this, when you begin to bring loving awareness to your brain and can catch yourself in those moments of, my brain is just doing this thing that brains do. It's trying to convince me that I can't do it and that I shouldn't even try, because that would require more energy for me to think in a new way, for me to learn new things, for me to develop new synapses in my brain that are connecting new thoughts. That would require energy, and my brain would rather not do that. And that's okay. If your brain is doing that, that's okay. And you can overcome that. It is 100% possible to redirect your brain into more supportive and empowering thoughts and habits and practices. And the way you override this tendency of the brain of wanting to keep you safe in what's known and comfortable and familiar, one of the ways is by developing a compelling enough why that is going to motivate you and pull you forward and get you past that hump of discomfort and resistance that the brain offers you to growth and expansion. If you want to hear more about 7 keys that will help you take on big challenges with more confidence and courage, check out the last podcast episode. It was all about this. We dive much deeper into that. Today, we're really going to talk about what gets in the way. And that was a great podcast episode if you want to find out what can help you take on big challenges. So definitely listen to both of these. For me, the way this showed up in the 100-mile bike ride I recently went after is that I used to tell myself I'm not an endurance athlete. I'm not a runner. I can't do things like this. My body wasn't built for things like this. And over the years, beginning to notice some of those thoughts allowed me to question them. For this 100-mile bike ride, and I talked about this in the last episode as well, there was a really compelling reason why I wanted to take on this ride. And that's one of the number one things I talk about that can help you say yes to taking on a challenge is having a compelling reason. So once I had that compelling reason, then I was able to be present to okay, what are the thoughts going on in my brain that are telling me why I can't do this? And knowing that, okay, that's just the way the brain works, that then gave me the opportunity to find more empowering thoughts. So again, remember, if your brain is giving you all kinds of reasons why it's not possible, whatever it is that you desire, know that's just a default mechanism of what's going on in your brain. And it is totally possible to rewrite that with awareness and noticing where your brain is telling you those thoughts, of questioning the truth of them, and then beginning to rewrite more empowering beliefs. The second reason why you're not going after what you really want is because you're avoiding the feelings that come with growth. And I see this all the time with my coaching clients, and it's something that so many of us are never aware of, that this is what is the biggest thing that often gets in our way, as our resistance to feeling our feelings. Because most people I know, we're not taught how to feel our feelings. And what happens when we resist our feelings, when we avoid our feelings, when we suppress our feelings, those feelings fester and cause so much stress and anxiety and overwhelm and compound these challenging, difficult emotions. And we end up not pursuing things, not taking actions because we're trying to avoid particular emotions. For example, let's say you're doing something like me and you want to take on something very physically demanding and outside of your comfort zone. You might hold yourself back from doing that because you don't want to feel the feelings that come with being a beginner. The awkwardness, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the embarrassment, whatever it is that might come with doing something for the first time and potentially sucking at it as you're learning and going through all of those emotions that come with being a beginner. Or you might not want to feel the emotions that come when you try something and potentially fail. The disappointment, the sadness, whatever it is that come with going for something big and potentially missing the mark. And again, this is what holds people back from trying in the first place, because they don't want to feel any of those emotions. So the brain tells them, just stay safe right here where you know what life is like, even if you don't like it. That's going to be so much more comfortable to the brain because it knows what to expect than really being willing to feel all of these feelings. So once you actually decide that you are willing to feel feelings and you learn how to do that, you learn how to be comfortable with the physical sensations that go on in your body when you feel embarrassment, when you feel disappointment, when you feel sadness, and you're able to hold yourself in those moments and not make yourself wrong and not judge yourself. A whole new world of possibility becomes available to you. You're all of a sudden willing to take risks, to take steps out into the unknown because you're willing to feel anything. And you're not making yourself wrong for feeling those feelings, and you're not resisting those feelings. You're not numbing out. You're not turning to TV or food or distractions to prevent yourself from feeling those feelings. You're not adding on the additional stress that comes when you resist your feelings. And when you don't do that, you have so much more energy and capacity to dedicate to things, to dedicate to the goals you're going after, to dedicate to learning new skills. And that makes all the difference. One thing I'll share that came up for me when I was doing this ride on May 17th. So I'd been training for this ride for 5 months. It was a 100-mile bike ride that I was doing to support the charity Movable Feast. And the first 37 miles went amazing. I was right on track with my miles per hour goal, and I thought for sure I'm going to make it. And then all of a sudden, at about mile 37, the wind started picking up. And I went from biking 15 miles an hour to now biking 9 miles an hour. And when I realized that after 10 miles, 20 miles, and the wind still picking up, and I was still going at the slower pace, I realized I wasn't going to make the 100 miles. There was a time cutoff, and I knew I was going to be redirected to the 67-mile route. And when that happened, my brain initially offered me all kinds of thoughts that triggered feelings of disappointment, of sadness, and I gave myself a minute to feel those feelings as I was biking, to really feel, yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that I didn't make my goal. And I gave myself space to notice the thoughts that came up that were triggering those feelings of disappointment. And this ties into the third reason that gets in people's way is when you use failure as evidence that you're not good enough or you're not capable. So what happened for me in that moment when I realized I wasn't going to make the 100 miles and I was going to, do the 67 instead, my brain initially offered me some thoughts of, see, you can't do it. You're not capable of doing this mileage. You're not ready. You're not good enough. Look at all these other people who are passing you. And I was able to catch those thoughts and say, wait. Why is my brain offering me these thoughts? And again, I remember back to reason number 1, because our brain wants us to stay protected and safe. It doesn't like growth and expansion, and it's just defaulting to this negativity bias because that's what it does. It's that survival mechanism that wants to keep us in the known and safe and familiar. And if it convinces me that I'm not capable of this, then maybe I won't try for big things in the future, and the brain won't have to, again, exert new energy to grow and expand. And if you don't catch this, again, what often happens is if you attempt something, if you speak your truth in a relationship and it doesn't go the way that you expected, or if you go after a particular job, you interview for something and you don't get it, the brain is going to offer you evidence of, see, I knew it wouldn't work out in the first place. You just shouldn't try again in the future. It's going to log that as evidence of why you're a failure, why you're not good enough, why it will never work. So in order to break this pattern, it requires awareness. It requires you to be able to catch those thoughts and question them and really ask yourself, wait, is that true? Is it true that just because I didn't reach 100 miles today in this particular ride, that I'm not capable of doing this in the future? No, that is 100% not true. And I have the choice now to either believe the first thought that popped into my brain, that limiting thought that says, oh, see, I told you you couldn't do it, or I can choose a different thought. So for you, I'm curious, are there places that you've quote unquote failed and your brain has logged that as evidence of why you can't do it this time? Notice for whatever you thought of at the beginning of this podcast, whatever goal, whatever desire that you had, where is your brain finding evidence of why you will not be successful, why change is not possible? Notice that and see where you can question it. The fourth reason why people don't go after what they really want is because they underestimate the time and effort that it will really take. We're in this world right now of social media where we're surrounded by stories and images of instant gratification and overnight success. I see posts on my Instagram all the time, sponsored ads from coaches who are like, I'm 25 and I earn $700,000 a month, and here's how. It's like, does that exist? Maybe. I don't know. And what I do know is that's not the norm. There is no quick and dirty recipe for success. And when we believe that there is, when we think it should be easy, when it should happen instantly, and we compare ourselves to other people and then make up stories about ourselves of what's wrong with me if I can't achieve something quickly, that energy of impatience, again, is so draining and also contribute to you giving up when you tell yourself, oh, I should have done it already. So if I haven't accomplished my goal in 6 months, then I'm obviously not capable. So I should just quit now. So ask yourself, where are you maybe underestimating the amount of time and effort it might take to bring a certain desire to life? And again, this can be in any area, whether it's a shift that you want to see in a relationship. Where are you putting pressure on something to change immediately, or put pressure on yourself to change a pattern or change a habit that maybe you've been practicing for the past 30 years or 40 years and telling yourself you should be different. You should just love yourself already. You should just be confident already, whatever it is. Where are you pressuring yourself to go faster, to push harder, and telling yourself it should have happened already? Instead, I invite you to consider the perspective that growth can take time and that it's okay for things to be challenging. It's okay for reaching big milestones to be hard, to take effort. There's nothing wrong. There's no problem if that's the case. To share another story from my ride, so there was one person, one woman on our team who finished like 130 miles probably before I even reached mile like 50 or 60. And when I was talking to her later, she was talking about how much time she spends weight training and building the muscles in her legs and her back and her glutes and all these different things that she does to prepare her body physically. She's an avid cyclist. So instead of looking at her and looking at me and making up a story of, oh, I'm not capable, why didn't I finish 130 miles? I can simply look at it without judgment and see, oh, I just underestimated what it would require of me physically to do 100 miles in one day. And I don't have to make it mean anything more than that. And I can simply be curious and see, oh, I wonder, what could I have done differently to equip my body to be able to navigate this challenge better? Oh, I see I could have lifted weights. I could have done weight training. I could have done these different things. Bringing the energy of curiosity here instead of judgment can change everything. Because again, what I find most people do is they make up a story about themselves, again, about why they're not capable. They judge themselves. They compare themselves to other people. What does that person have that I don't? I must be missing something inherently, instead of simply being curious and asking, oh, what was missing? What skills am I missing? What experience am I missing? What muscles could I have built that could have helped me here? And then being willing to be in the practice of that, being willing to develop those skills, being willing to expand that capacity, and being willing for it to take time. So for you, where in your life are you being impatient? What goal do you have that you've been telling yourself you should have done it faster? It should be easier. If any of that is coming up for you, how could you rewrite that story? And if you've missed the mark, if you've been attempting to pursue something, how can you get curious and ask yourself, what could you work on? What's your new hypothesis of what it would take? And then how could you practice that little by little, day by day? The next reason people don't pursue what they really want is because you're attached to the outcome and you're not enjoying the journey. I'll share another story that I was at a brunch recently with a bunch of runners, and they were talking about how someone else mentioned to them that they had just run a marathon, and they were bragging that they hadn't trained for this marathon at all, and they still finished it. And they also talked about how they felt miserable at the end of it and their body was suffering and that they were like vomiting at the end and all these terrible things were happening in their experience. And the runner I was talking to was saying, that's not really something to brag about, that you completed this marathon with zero training. And they said, the marathon is really the celebration. The gold is in the training along the way. It's in all the time that you dedicate to yourself, to that growth and expansion that gets you to that culmination moment where you get to celebrate all of your hard work that you've maybe done for weeks and weeks and months and months. And yet so many people have this focus the opposite. They're just focused on the milestone. They're just focused on the mountaintop, and they forget everything that goes into reaching that milestone. And they only allow themselves to be happy or satisfied when they've reached that milestone moment, and they forget about every day along the way. And the reality is, we have so many more moments and days where we're climbing the mountain than when we're actually standing at the peak. So many more moments where we're dusting ourselves off because we tripped and fell, or we're tired and asking ourselves, oh my gosh, can I make it? And then picking ourselves back up and continuing, or where we feel really challenged, or where we feel really alive. All of those things we experience along the way, that's what life is really made up of. So the question is, can you enjoy the process and not just be attached to the journey and the final destination? What would it look like to infuse more happiness, more joy, and gratitude into your journey, whatever it is, instead of being attached to that one peak moment that you're shooting for or aiming for? And again, to share another story from my ride, when I had that moment and I realized that I wasn't going to make it 100 miles, and the brain was offering me these thoughts of disappointment and all of that, I brought it back to, wait a second. Remember, for the past 5 months, you've been training for this. You've been growing and expanding your physical capacity, your mental capacity, your emotional capacity. You've met new people. You've been surrounded by people who are inspiring and empowering and encouraging. And we've been supporting each other as we've all been going after this big goal. There's been so many beautiful moments. And even this day that I was experiencing was incredible. And I asked myself, am I going to forget or discount all of that just because I didn't get to check the box of 100 miles? No. And I chose to come back to this reminder of what an incredible experience this has all been. And also to remember there's so much gold in the lessons I learned simply from going after this goal. And then it wasn't just about, did I reach the 100 miles or did I not? This experience was so much more valuable than just that arbitrary number. The next reason that gets in people's way is that you're waiting to feel ready before moving forward. And this readiness can show up like a lot of things. It can be you don't feel ready because you don't have enough money right now, or you don't have enough time right now, or you feel like you don't have the skills right now, or whatever it is. There's some kind of readiness that you're waiting for that you think is required before you take the first step. When actually, all those things that you think you need, the skills, the capacity, the time, all of that can be created after you say yes. So for me, what that looked like, when I said yes to taking on this challenge of 100 miles, my body was not physically ready or capable of riding 100 miles. And it wasn't until after I said yes and made the commitment that I then began to explore, what would that require? What would that take? Oh, it would require training. It would require some new equipment on my bike. It would require me expanding my capacity of what I believe I'm capable of holding in my life, both time wise as well as emotionally, to really believe, okay, I have time to train for this and run my business and make time for my friends and fundraise and do all these other things. Time was a big thing for me that I really wanted a breakthrough in, which was why I said yes to this, because I knew doing this experience would be a catalyst for me to break through the limiting beliefs that told me I don't have time for more. So taking on a challenge like this can be the exact thing that helps you have the breakthrough that you really want to have, or that is preventing you that you think you're not ready for. So whatever it is, whatever your goal is, whatever is the thing that you thought about at the beginning of this conversation, where are you telling yourself that you're not ready? Whether it's, I'm not ready to speak my truth in this relationship because I don't know the exact words to say yet, or I'm not ready to start my business and start putting my offers out into the world because I don't have the perfect website yet, or I'm not ready to take on this physical challenge because I'm not in shape yet. What if all of that could come as you take the first steps? I talk about a concept in my coaching process called kinetic confidence. And what that means is you develop confidence through action. You develop confidence through doing, through taking those steps. You don't need to feel 100% confident or 100% ready before you do the things. You can start now. Okay, so when I was first putting my thoughts together for this podcast, I thought that was it. Those are the 6 things that I was going to share with you. And I pulled an oracle card right before this podcast to see if there was any other intuitive guidance or wisdom that was coming through. And this card made me think of a 7th reason that holds people back from pursuing the things that they really want. And this card says rest. So, the 7th reason that I believe holds people back from pursuing the things that they really want is that you don't take time for rest. So many of us have these big goals and dreams. Again, personally, professionally, whatever it is, we have these things that we want to do, that we want to accomplish, that we want to grow and expand into. And when it comes to growing, there's seasons for things. There's seasons and times for expansion, for movement, for doing. And what so many people underestimate is how important rest is. And I thought about this a lot in my training as well. I didn't really know this before training for this. And when you're training for something endurance related like this, like biking or running, rest is just as important as training, as biking. Because when we push and expand past our physical capacity, when we exhaust our muscles, you might have learned this if you do weight training or anything else, it's important to give your muscles time to rest and repair. And it's actually in that process of repairing, of resting, that we get stronger. So it is useful and important and critical and necessary to take those moments of rest and recovery. Again, whether this looks like physically, whether you've been pushing yourself physically and you need to take those moments of rest and recovery, or if you've been going after a big goal in your business and you've been growing and expanding and you're putting yourself out into the world and being more visible and showing up in a bigger way, or you're showing up more powerfully in your relationships, whatever it is, we need time to rest as well. And it's in those moments of not thinking, not doing, not pushing, not needing to accomplish anything that we give ourselves space mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually to recover and to trust that things are going on underneath the surface. Your body is wise. It is integrating things. Your emotional state is integrating things. And that going after big goals is not all about doing. It's about being as well. It's so important. And we're conditioned in this society to believe otherwise, to believe that we always need to be producing and achieving and crossing something off the list. And it's not true. You don't need to be chasing something and accomplishing something to be worthy or valuable or deserving. You are enough right now. There are things to enjoy and be grateful for about your life right now. And you can have both. You can be working towards big goals while also enjoying your life in this present moment. So I'll read you this oracle card. It says, resting is productive because it is the way I stay grounded. I need rest to recharge. It's easy to let obligations monopolize my leisure time, but I'm ready to create more space for relaxation. If the only thing I do today is blank, I will feel satisfied. I am ready to create more space for relaxation. I am excited to spend quality time with me. I will remind myself that I deserve to do nothing sometimes. I am going to rest unapologetically. Ah, so good. Okay, my friend, that's what I have to share with you today. So my final question for you is, what are you ready to say yes to? What desire is on your heart that it's time to pursue? Again, big or small, personal, professional, doesn't matter. Where are you now ready to believe something new is possible for yourself? And know that everything I talked about in this episode, these reasons that hold you back, they are things you can overcome. And coaching is the number one tool and practice that's really helped me shift past these things. And I support my clients every single day. The biggest things that we work on together in coaching, number one, is creating an empowered mindset to really be able to catch those limiting beliefs, the thoughts and stories that tell you you're not capable, bring awareness to them so that you can create new empowered thoughts. I call this a phoenix mindset, to really be able to see yourself as someone is capable of rising from the ashes and overcoming any challenge. The other thing that I work on with every single one of my coaching clients is learning to feel and embrace their emotions. Like I talked about earlier, this is so key. And when you develop this skill to feel your feelings, no matter what they are, and stop resisting them or avoiding them, you are unstoppable. You have so much more willingness to go after big goals and put yourself in uncomfortable circumstances because you're willing to feel whatever feelings come up. Another thing I work on with my coaching clients is activating a vision for themselves that lights them up. Connecting with a compelling why you want to make this change, why you want to show up differently in your relationships, why you want to pursue more fulfilling work, whatever it is, connecting to a why that deeply inspires you and compels you to move forward so that you can override that default brain tendency to stay small and safe and familiar in what's known and predictable and comfortable. And then together we hone in on what are those inspired actions you can take right now, remembering that readiness isn't something that you have to wait for or seek externally. It's something that you can develop after you say yes to whatever goal or dream or desire that you have, and it comes through taking inspired actions every single day. So the beauty of working with a coach is that you have someone to stay accountable to. You have someone to help you shift your perspective. You have someone to help you work through the challenges that will inevitably come up as you take new actions and you become aware of the thoughts and feelings that come with expansion and growth. That is the beauty of this work. You develop skills that will transform yourself from the inside out and help you expand into a new belief of what you're capable of so that you have the courage and confidence to pursue and create the life that you really want. If you are looking for that kind of support, I offer free clarity calls that are all about exploring what really matters to you in life, uncovering the things that are really getting in your way, and then honing in on the tools and practices that will support you most. And we'll talk all about how coaching could be an incredible catalyst to support your growth and evolution. If you're ready to explore how having that kind of support can change your life, go to ginakasbara.com/clarity call. Again, this free call is all about creating the time and space for you to listen to this yes on your heart, to take inspired actions one at a time and trust yourself to see where they lead. So if you're feeling that nudge at all, whatsoever, I invite you to book one of these calls. And right now is the perfect time because I am planning some really special experiences for my one-on-one coaching clients coming up in June. So if you are curious to find out what that is and how this work can support you, book one of these calls and we will talk all about it. All right, my friend, I'm sending you so much love. Remember, you are so much more capable than you can even imagine right now. And I can't wait to talk about what dreams and desires are on your heart. Okay? I'll talk to you soon.